For those of you who don't know what South of Midnight is, it's an action adventure game created by Compulsion Games. This is the studio that brought us We Happy Few. Um, I never played that game, but I did hear it wasn't very well received by anyone. Um, and since they released that, they have been acquired by Xbox. And with this preview, have actually shown a ton of growth through this game. It's a completely different direction for them, and I think that has worked in their favor massively. So after South of Midnight was revealed at the Xbox Game Showcase halfway through last year, it definitely shot up to being one of my most anticipated games of this year. The stylized and stop motion art style garnered my attention immediately, and I'm pretty sure it got the rest of our attention on the podcast as well. South of Midnight is set in the US Deep South and follows Hazel after a hurricane rips through her hometown, Prospero, pulling her into a world that interweaves reality and fantasy. Separated from her mother, she must navigate this strange world filled with mythical creatures suffering from trauma and an ancient magic called weaving. Hazel quickly learns that the land has chosen her to become a weaver. So, a weaver can utilize magic objects and has the ability to wield strands to manipulate the world around them, as you can see in the gameplay video on YouTube if you're watching. Uh, Prospero is absolutely gorgeous. Now, I am not by any means cultured in American geography, but I hear US Deep South and I like picture boggy swamps, very like dry, lots of browns and yellows. And like the environment I got to explore in this preview was very swamp coded, but somehow Compulsion managed to pair the stop motion art style and gorgeous lighting to create such beautiful scenery. There were so many areas where I just had to stop and take a moment and enjoy where I was. Yeah, it was beautiful. So the preview began at the start of chapter 3 and promptly introduced me to my first enemy encounter. These enemies are called Haint. They are harrowing, angry creatures only visible to weavers. Upon watching the gameplay trailer prior to the preview, I had my hesitations about how the stop motion effect that the game has might have clashed with how fluid the combat was gonna be. But as soon as I got into the game, those reservations were squashed and I experienced how seamless and engaging the combat can be. Hazel's combat skill set sees her utilizing both melee attacks and special abilities, with the latter having cooldowns. Two of these abilities allow Hazel to push and pull her enemies, allowing for crowd control and other tactics to ensure her survival. The third ability tangles enemy for a short period of time, allowing players to get an extra hits or just simply regain their composure in what can often be tense encounters. I'll admit, I was getting my ass beat in the first handful of enemy encounters, but as soon as I had a couple upgrades under my belt and befriended the dodge button, I felt a lot more powerful. Not powerful enough to eliminate the difficulty, because while it's not a walk in the park, you do need to be a little strategic with how you approach these encounters. Um, but yeah, it coming out of these encounters, you feel so satisfied each time. Because I only got to play one chapter of the game, I was very, well, I am very wary of how varied the enemies might be throughout the game. Because we only saw, well, I only saw like 3 or 4 different kinds. So um, that's probably my main hesitation for the full game. Um, but yeah, my favorite part of the preview was meeting Catfish, who, if you've seen the trailer, you know who I'm talking about. Um, he serves as the narrator of the story as well. There he is there. We don't know a lot about Catfish yet, apart from being Hazel's companion throughout the story, but he was just brimming with charm and knowledge and a very fun southern accent. Mythical creatures like catfish are scattered throughout this peculiar world, including the first mythical creature of the game, which I got to meet, and his name was Benji. Like all mythical creatures, Benji has trauma. This pain rots and creates stigma in the environment. To help Benji, I was tasked to search the environment and locate and clear stigma vortexes. Once cleared, these vortexes hold an echo knot, which once unraveled contain a core memory of Benji and the origin of his trauma. I was very surprised by how heart-wrenching Benji's story was and how empathetic I was as well. Uh, if if this is just a taste of the stories and the backgrounds of the mythical creatures in each area, I am very, very keen to see what other stories Compulsion are going to tell in this game as well. Hazel herself, as a main character, is very likable. She has a lot of attitude, but like the endearing kind, not the annoying kind. And I'm very excited to experience the rest of her story. So what did I take away from this preview? First impressions last, and Compulsion Games have certainly raised my expectations with this preview. If the rest of the game is as eccentric and captivating as the 90 minutes that I played, I'm sure this game is going to be a talking point in Game of the Year discussions at the end of 2025. But yes, that is what I have to say about South of Midnight. Jamie, do you have any questions?
So I didn't play We Happy Few. I remember I was excited for it with all the initial trailers. It looked great. I think launch was a bit rough on that one from what I've heard. I did play the studio's first
Oh,
game,
yeah.
Contrast. I think that was back on PS4. It was around launch time. I think that came out. Very stylized 3D-ish platformer from memory. I do definitely remember it being very stylized. So yeah, I get those vibes in terms of at least the visuals from this game. I think I like the fact that when I see the movement in terms of the parkour, I'm getting vibes of like Infamous. I always think in terms of getting around the map quickly and fun, Infamous always nailed that. It didn't matter which game it was. And it looks like this is sort of trying to replicate that in a sense. Would you say that's a sort of direct comparison in terms of like the parkour
So I
elements?
haven't played Infamous, so I'm not sure.
Oh, jeez. All right. They're the vibes I get from it though, which is a positive thing. The only other thing I probably have in terms of questions, combat wise, is there sort of a comparison game that you would
Oh,
sort of state? Because it didn't look hack and slashy, say like a Devil May
no.
Cry or anything. It looked like almost more methodical, but not like obviously not a Souls
No.
type thing. But it looked like you had to pick your shots, and then I think from the gameplay you had to sort of once you've knocked the enemy down, have to do that finishing blow before they're off the board.
Yeah,
Correct?
so they're once their health depletes, they get knocked out, and then you can unravel them. That's what it's called. Um,
Mm.
so when they're knocked out, they're essentially dead, like they're not coming back. But you can unravel them, which gives you more health. Well, which heals you. Um, I
Hmm.
feel like that's what the purpose of the unraveling is. Because in each like encounter, you can only heal once. There's like a healing stone type thing in every like
Oh, okay.
encounter. Um, so yeah, once you use that, that's it. So, and some of these encounters can be like have like three or four like waves of enemies. Like they spawn in as you defeat more. So, um, but yeah, back to the like the parkour elements. It was very like easy to use, and like the gliding animation is just beautiful too. Um, I think I just
Mm.
kept gliding everywhere, even when I didn't need to, because it was so nice to look at. Um, I I think I don't know if it's because like last year was very RPG heavy, so it's really nice having a more focused, like just small action adventure game. I have looked up. Apparently, the game's going to be like 10 to 12 hours, so not too bad. Um,
Okay.
well, especially for a Game Pass game, like you don't even need to buy it. So, um, yeah, I think I don't know if this is going to like save Xbox, but if this game is like marks what this year might be for Xbox, then I am very excited for them because, as I said, like I'll be thinking about. I know I've only played one chapter, but if the rest of the game is similar to what I played, I will be thinking about this as a game of the year in Contender when we have that discussion lots of months on from now.
Mm. No, that's well, that's good to hear because I think I've said it before. Since I think I've basically been sold on it since the initial reveal, where I thought it was really distinctive and unique. And the behind the scenes developer documentary, which people should go out their way to watch. I thought that was really informative with everything, and it really you felt the passion from the devs. And the recent reveal, I sort of the dev direct
Yeah.
or whatever it was called, I've already forgotten, but yeah, it sort of dove deeper into the game and like as someone that doesn't own an Xbox, would this get me to buy the console? Maybe not, just because I know we're sort of winding down on the console being a thing. We touched on that last week, but if this was to come to PlayStation at some other point, or if my internet somehow randomly allowed me to use the Fire Stick again, I'd definitely be picking this up because yeah, Contrast, like I said, was a solid game. I think I may have even reviewed it back in the day. I can't remember the score, but um, I think We Happy Few had a really cool concept as well, and if they're able to sort of hit that stylized visuals, which I've already seen to be, as well as like this cool aesthetic, I think it could be really fantastic. So that's good to hear that it's
Mm.
on track at least. And what's the release date for
I
this
think
one? Do
it's
we
like
have that yet?
April 8. I don't know why I didn't write that down. um,
I was trying to segue you into it.
yeah, so it is April 8th. It's
So
April
quite
8th.
soon.
So
Yeah.
I
Quite
will
soon
say
is that
I'm
one.
really like they're obviously tackling themes of like pain and trauma as well as like kind of the main theme around these mythical creatures at least. I'm really like curious to see how far into that theme they go. Um like yeah, it it's
And the one
mm,
other question, just sorry to cut you off there, was in the story trailer they sort of have touched on, I guess Hazel herself and her relationship with her mother, and I'm guessing there'll be an arc and a main story along that as well, which ties probably the creatures and stuff together, which also could be really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm like her like actual relationship with her mother is unclear to me because I did start in chapter 3, um, and her mum's like missing by then. So, but obviously she cares about her mother enough to go and find her. So, um, it is a
That's a
good
good sign. Yeah.
sign. Um, yeah, I'm very pleased with my experience. I played the preview twice, and I was so comfortable with the combat the second time round that it only took me half the time to beat that preview than I did the first time. So yeah, yeah, thrilled. I can't wait.
All right. Well, if you're watching on YouTube, you got a sort of a short sneak peek of the gameplay. If you'd like to read Brad's full review, you can go on to next hyphen dash play. What is it? We've changed it. I swear it used to be dash. Um, yeah, so head over to next-play.com.au for the full written review.
Preview.
And I think you'll also be able to get some gameplay there as well.
Yeah, there'll be
Preview.
screenshots mainly in the preview, and then I'll be, I guess, I mean, if you just watched it here, you don't need to watch anymore, but I'll be posting,
No, go back, watch it
I'll be
again. Get those
uploading a
views up.
standalone version so you don't have to hear us ramble on about everything else in between this preview as well.